Last but certainly not least in our list of teams that did very interesting things during this trade deadline is the Chicago Cubs. Man, oh man, did we need a hero? And we got good players, but I don't think we got the hero that we needed. We got Andrew Kittredge, we got Taylor Rogers, Michael Soroka, and Willie Castro. You know what? I'm a fan of Willie Castro. I'm sad that the Cubs took another Oriole from me, but whatever. Brandon, what are your thoughts on all this?
I think you should have said last, but certainly least, because I think the Cubs had the single worst trade deadline in baseball. Now, I'm biased in that I am a Cubs fan, and I was expecting big things. Perhaps foolishly, Jed Hoyer's made a reputation of being very inflexible with his valuations on players, which is fine. It's just, again, we've talked in recent weeks about, unlike the Brewers or unlike the Red Sox, it's really the Cubs year is 2025. It's not the only year they're going to be competitive, but if you don't re-sign Kyle Tucker, this team's not going to be as good as it is right now in future seasons. And so it's one of those things where everyone knew the Cubs needed another starting pitcher and they did not get one. I guess maybe Michael Soroka could pitch in the rotation, maybe, but he's just another Colin Ray in that situation where he's a fine depth arm, but he's not the guy who's going to start a playoff game for you. He's a fine reliever, I think, but the Cubs got three relievers. They DFA'd Ryan Presley, which is fine, I guess. That was another failed trade from the offseason, but it's just one of those things where again, I guess they got the bullpen help they needed and they got the bench help they needed. I do really like Willie Castro, who we can talk about in a second, but you got sort of the ancillary pieces that you needed, but you did not get the big one. I mean, they needed the starting pitcher, whether it was a rental like Dylan Cease or even like, Merrill Kelly of the Diamondbacks. He wouldn't have been good enough, but at least it would have been something. Or, one of those big aces like, Edward Cabrera or Mackenzie Gore, but they didn't do anything in the rotation. And now you're relying on Javier Assad and Jamison Tyone to come back and be healthy. Man, I do think this was a huge failure by Jed Hoyer in the front office.
Yeah, I gotta completely agree. You and I, for the past 2 years at this point, have talked constantly about the starting lineup of pitchers and how if one goes down, usually they all go down, and we never have anybody to replace them. And we were hoping by, the trade deadline that something was going to change, and as you said, nothing did. It really is a shame because I think it puts so much pressure on, like you said, Assad. It puts pressure on our boy, of course, Shota Imanaga. It puts Justin Steele. The list goes on and on and on. And I think it also sucks because what this also puts pressure on is, in a good way and a bad way, um, it puts pressure on our prospects because in theory, what could happen next year is they go, okay, our our bullpen is looking okay, but we didn't pick up anybody from the trade deadline. So let's send up a minor leaguer to really kind of help things out. And we've been slowly doing that already with people like Ben Brown and yada, yada, yada. I'm
Mhm.
kind of getting ahead of myself here, but it just hasn't worked out yet. We haven't found that one player or maybe the multiple players that have really been able to fill in those big shoes. And again, I think that was the huge mistake, like you said, that we kind of hit here. Let's talk about Willie Castro for a second.
Yeah, I think um, I do really, really like Willie Castro as a fit for the Cubs. He's been rumored, for this team for a while. I'm glad they got him. He was really the bench piece that after Suarez went to the Mariners, he made the most sense. He's a super utility guy. He can realistically play almost anywhere on the diamond besides like pitcher and catcher. So for a team that needs to start giving Pete Armstrong some days off, heading into the playoffs, for a team that needs to give Matt Shaw some rest at third base. Maybe, Michael Bush sort of already has a platoon with Justin Turner, but, it just gives them so much more flexibility. And it was a huge need because obviously the Cubs got rid of Vidal Brujan, thankfully, after just a miserable tenure with the Cubs. It looks like John Birdie will probably stick around, but, Willie Castro now sort of jumps him in that pecking order in terms of depth. So that's a really, really nice move. They gave up stuff for him. It's not like, Ryan Gallagher was a really good pitcher who's been having a breakout season. So this was not a costless trade, but it's in a vacuum. This was a perfect move for this Cubs team. It's just in the scope of this ended up being the biggest move at the deadline for them. It's a huge failure.
Yeah, again, I'm gonna play not the devil's advocate, but let's try to be positive in all this, right? It's not all doom and gloom when it comes to the Chicago Cubs. I think Willie Castro, like you said, he's gonna be a Swiss Army player, being a Swiss Army tool in that sense, no matter where you, for the most part, where you put him. So to relieve pressure, like you said, from different players. Thank goodness at the end of the day, because I think barring, not he can't be a pitcher, obviously, but like we've already put so much pressure on so many of our players. Let's give some of them a break. Especially somebody like, PCA. I will sing PCA's praises to the end of the day, and to have a power hitting threat like Willie Castro, another power hitting threat, like Willie Castro on this team. We already performed so well. We're doing so well this season. But with an addition like Willie Castro, I don't think it is a failure overall during the trade deadline. It is maybe the one ray of sunshine in the entirety of the clouds that was the Cubs during the trade deadline. But as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts about the trade deadline in general, whether it's about the Cubs, the Padres, whatever team you enjoy. We'd love to hear it in the comments section below. We will be responding to you as I cry in the corner, mourning the loss of my dear, dear Orioles center fielder, Cedric
Mhm.
Mullins.